Gravity Circuit is a 2D action platformer from developer Domesticated Ant Games. I grew up on the 6 classic Mega Man titles on the NES, and fell in love with their precise platforming, challenging bosses, and the experimentation their unique weapons provided. I've also enjoyed other companies' takes on the genre, such as the excellent Shovel Knight Quadrilogy, which took a lot of the basic ideas those classic platformers had, but added a little more meat to them. Needless to say, Gravity Circuit caught my eye pretty early on, as I'm always excited to see a fresh take on a game like this. Side note, if the footage looks a little different, it's because I recorded playing on my Einthor. I started on it because I was curious how it would play, but then I loved it so much I just ended up sticking with it. The game opens up with its premise. A mysterious relic called the Ark was dug up and is flooding the world with evil robots, as well as attempting to take control of a powerful group of heroic robots known as the Circuits. This leaves the final one standing, the Gravity Circuit, to capture them and restore order to the world. Like a lot of games in the genre, the story isn't a huge focus. It definitely wasn't keeping me on the edge of my seat or anything, but it kept the game flowing moment to moment at the very least. There were a few cool twists, but I still felt like the game didn't really want to give its characters anything more than a quick introduction and a few passing lines from some NPCs. The game has this compendium that could have at least been used to give a little bit more lore on these characters, but with each entry being barely a sentence, it really didn't. I really wish they would have expanded more on this, but I can understand that games don't have unlimited budget, and they felt that best spelled elsewhere. And part of that elsewhere was definitely the gameplay. A lot of the inspiration was definitely lifted from Mega Man with the general 8-stage structure, as well as the control scheme and level design philosophies. Where it differs, however, is that instead of a blaster that fires projectiles forward, you can use a variety of melee attacks, as well as a grappling hook that can be shot in 8 directions. This creates some fun platforming challenges, using the hook to swing across gaps, but can also be used to pick up and throw enemies, dealing massive damage to anything it hits. It's really fun chaining together a bunch of grabs and throws and just shredding through enemies. Instead of gaining special weapons, you can instead acquire burst techniques, super moves that can be used by getting energy from defeated enemies. They have a wide variety of uses, from damage to healing, to even platforming, but their high cost made them feel more situational than something like Mega Man's special weapons or Shovel Knight's relics. Undeniably though, Gravity Circuit's strongest element is its levels. Each one has its own simple yet distinct palette, a cohesive gimmick that sells a location, and a banging track to accompany your journey through the stage. The game doesn't have too many crazy ideas for unique robots on the surface, but the way the levels are do a lot of heavy lifting to sell them and make them so memorable. Like the repair robot, who you have to find at the depths of her junkyard catacombs, fending off the reanimated scrap protecting her. Or the hacker robot with crazy platforming challenges in cyberspace, who laughs at you when you fail a jump like he's watching you play a shitty Mario Maker level. It does a lot to make them more than just the fire robot or the ice robot. There's not to say the boss fights themselves aren't putting in work though. To me, each boss immersed me as though I was fighting against another character on the same skill level as my own, with their own massive pool of skills and even some burst techniques of their own when they get low enough. It's a lot to keep track of, and it makes the fights feel quite difficult, but they are very rewarding to break through over several deaths, learning the patterns slowly after each attempt. At least at first. If there's one critique I have of this game, it's the upgrades you can purchase with the money and rescues you get from the stages. These have some absolutely crazy effects, like letting you heal from energy pickups or quadrupling your hookshot's damage. Probably the most absurd upgrade I found, however, was a palette that makes your character pink while giving them completely invulnerable flight for a few seconds, and instantly killing nearby enemies when it ends, just on a short cooldown. Some of these could definitely be toned down, but it's a single-player game, and I'm sure that a lot of the dedicated players will simply avoid these broken upgrades in a future playthrough if they want a more interesting challenge for themselves. Still, these tools are hard to ignore in a first playthrough, and did make me feel like I was breezing through the challenge a little easier than intended, which is a bit of a shame. Gravity Circuit is a great example of what a modern take on a classic platformer can be like, and when it's at its best, it made me relive the highs I felt playing Shovel Knight for the first time. It does have a few weak points, but for most of those, it didn't immediately detract me from the game, and it was more about things I just thought after the fact. It just makes me excited for whatever the devs plan to make in the future, more than anything, as I'm sure they'll make an even better. It was a pretty short game, but I thoroughly enjoyed every second of the 4 hours I put in the game, and would absolutely recommend it to anyone looking for a quick, intense platformer.